Hey folks, I'm here today to show you the books that I read in May. And previously on Pulp Fiction, your comments voted that I read this book, Karate is a Thing of the Spirit by Harry Crews from 1971. And Harry Crews was a new to me author, but I watched a documentary/interview about him on YouTube, and I think I get the idea. He writes the hard stuff about hard people. And he had a pretty hard time, especially early on. He was born poor during the Depression to sharecroppers in Georgia, and he was disabled with polio when he was 5. And when he recovered and was learning how to walk again, he fell into a vat of boiling water that was being used to skin hogs. And I see his books tagged as Southern Gothic and Gritlit, and he writes some pretty bleak, dark satire about broken people and eccentrics living on the fringes of society. And one of the guys in this documentary was saying that Harry Crews likes to rub our noses in sensitive subject matter as a way of revealing truths about human nature and desperation. And in this book alone, he explores disability, racism, gender ideology, unwanted pregnancies, sexual violence. If you can get triggered by it, Harry Crews is writing about it. And I would place this on the fringes of absurdist fiction. It was more scenario-based than plot-driven. We have our neutral, wandering soul searcher going through absurd situation after absurd situation, trying to make sense of things and find himself. And he falls in with this band of karate fanatics whose second in command is the blonde beauty queen. And unbeknownst to him, they're kind of setting him up to fall into these bizarro situations and then teaching him to use these trials and tribulations as a way to achieve karate as a thing of the spirit. It was good, and it has the words karate and erotic on the cover, so I'll call it Karateka. And I was going to read this next, Chrysanthemum, Rose and the Samurai by Anonymous. And this is Samurotica. And I thought Karateka and Samurotica would make for a good battle of the books. But this is part of a larger project, believe it or not. And it isn't time for this one yet, but you will see it again. I did stick with the erotica though. This is Thunder Laboom by Anne Steinhardt from 1974. And this is a California-style novel, whatever that means, about a wildly provocative, topless, bottomless stripper. And this was written during the sexual revolution, and it's a book authored by a woman about a strip club seen through the eyes of a man and dedicated to her father. And Thunder Laboom is our focus character. And she's a very intelligent wife of a doctor and nothing more. And she's restless and looking for purpose. So in secret, she gets a job waitressing at this really grimy strip club. And she's kind of clumsy and it's a bit of a struggle, but she doesn't want to give up because she's having an experience. And one evening, the club's down a dancer, and the manager convinces her to do a dance. And she does, and she's a bit shy and awkward, but the men approve of her, and she's found it kind of liberating. And there is some body positivity themes in here, too. All the girls at Obi's have the body types of real women. They're all different shapes and sizes. And Thunder Laboom is a bigger girl, tall, with a heavy build. And at one point, the managers bring in a stripper from the Big City Lights who's obviously had some work done. And the men don't approve of her. They think she's too fake, and they want real women. And there's a real family vibe amongst everybody at Obi's too, including the regulars. And 2 of the characters even get married and have a bottomless wedding at the club, which was the event of the season. And we see Thunder Laboom coming out of her shell and having her liberating experience But eventually, her husband finds out and comes to the club and forbids her to continue. And at the same time, our main character falls in love with her, but he too becomes a problematic and unlikable character that's just getting in her way. And poor Thunder Laboom, who's just trying to find herself, is being held back by these men. And it was good. It's like a woman's liberation book from the feminist and sexual revolution. It's got girl power. And Anne Steinhardt played the bass in an 8-lady world beat band called Pele Juju, who you can look up and stream. Next I read this one, Demon in the Mirror by Andrew Offutt and Richard Lyon, Volume 1 of The War of the Wizards, originally published in 1978. And I was happy to find this one because it's Andrew Offutt. And I have a few of his books I was thinking about showing off in their own video. And Andrew Offutt has written all kinds of stuff, but he's probably best known by literary critics as being a sleaze author. But this book has no sleaze in it. It's at least nothing gratuitous. It's about Tiana, warrior supreme, sails her pirate ship on a perilous quest through the mists of alien lands. And this is a great book, but unfortunately, she spends most of it on land. I was hoping for more of the first chapter when they were plundering another ship that they'd just taken. There's not enough swashbuckling. But it was good. It's non-stop, ridiculous action. Tiana crosses swords with demons, barbarians, and vampire nuns. But also man-eating plants and living shadows that you can only fight with your shadow. So you gotta be in the right light. It's crazy. And Tiana is captain of the pirate ship Vixen. It was her stepfather, but he's stepped down and given the helm to Tiana and stayed on as first mate. And in this book, they split up to seek out and reassemble the dismembered body parts of an evil wizard who, they've been told, can say where Tiana's captured brother is. And Tiana knows this is a trick, but she thinks that she can defeat this evil wizard once and for all and get the info she needs to find her bro. And we follow Tiana, but then we'll get a chapter that's a log entry from her stepdad telling the adventures of him and the crew fighting for the body parts that they've managed to acquire. It was great, very pulpy. It's paced like an action-adventure novel with an epic battle over each body part. And I love this Timescape edition too. Next up was a really good one. This is All Fool's Day by Edmund Cooper, originally published ahead of its time in 1966. And this edition is from 1973, I think. And this is kind of an enviropunk post-apocalyptic novel about sunspots that suddenly appeared and sent down radiation waves that caused people to start committing suicide in droves. And the only people who survive, the only people unaffected, are the people who didn't fit in or rejected society in the first place, the eccentric types and the artistic creatives, and criminals and the mentally unstable, basically Harry Crew's characters. And they did not create a utopia, believe it or not. Humans are few and far between, the city's overgrown and decayed, and animals are a big threat. There's some good animal attack horror in here, with roaming swarms of rats. And the guy we follow seems normal enough, but he was depressed before the fact. And he was an artist too, he worked in advertising. But he saves a woman from a pack of dogs, and they fall in love, but she has a mission. She has an almost telepathic connection with her abducted twin sister, and has nightmares where she can sense her sister's distress and feel her abuse. And the bond she has to her is so strong that it overpowers her love for anyone else, and she's willing to go against all odds to try and rescue her sister or join her as a slave girl just to be with her and be together. And our guy, having nothing else to live for except for his love for this girl, decides to go along and suffer the same fate. But he knows the score, and he's questioning this girl's sanity. She obviously has issues if she's survived the radiation, right? So he thinks this twin might not even exist. But this is a survival adventure story, and I think it's cool that it was environmental causes and not nuclear fallout from a blast like a lot of other post-apocalyptic stories are. And before the story even starts, the author warns us about the sun's radiation. This was in 1966. But it's superbly written, and I would definitely read more by Edmund Cooper. Next, I read Truth Killers by Glenn T. Brock, who is the author of Inside the Green Circle and Shacktown. And I haven't read these first two yet, and I didn't realize that they're intended to be read in order. There was a lot of references to these and some spoilers in this one. But this is its own contained story. I was fine with it. But I was enticed by this one because in the acknowledgments it says, some descriptions of ordnance are suggested by the Anarchist Cookbook by William Powell, published by Lyle Stewart in 1971. So that got my attention, but there wasn't much in it to that effect. At one point, the bad guys put blank rounds in their shotguns and put rods down the barrel and attach grenades at the ends as a type of makeshift rocket launcher. And they use these to blow up a plane on the runway. But this is a super pulpy police procedural that doesn't slow down at any point. It's go, go, go the whole time. It reads super fast. And I won't say much about it now. I'll wait until I've read the series as a whole and then talk about them. Next, I read this. This is a sweet movie tie-in edition of The Commitments by Roddy Doyle. And I've wanted to read this for ages, and I finally found a copy in a thrift store, and I was not disappointed. If you don't know, The Commitments are a Dublin soul band made up of unemployed youths in Dublin who play soul covers but change some of the lyrics to better represent Dublin, and they call it Dublin Soul. And this book follows their formation and their rise to popularity, along with the inner conflicts of the band. And it was really good. It was gritty and funny, a lot of hard to understand Dublin slang, and really good creative writing with song lyrics and a lot of onomatopoeias for the instruments. And it worked great, especially if you know the songs. This book has a great soundtrack, and it's the premise of a great movie. And I like music fiction or any genre fiction that exploits the music industry or follows a band or a pop star in the leading role. I call it rock and roll fiction. And let me know in the comments if you want to see some rock and roll fiction. I could probably show you 10 or 11 plus books, book haul style, that I call rock and roll fiction. But if you're interested, let me know. But most of my reading this May was taken up with a non-fiction book about books that I'm excited to show you in another video. But this is all for now. Hopefully I've put something on your radar. Thanks for watching. Over and out.